back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final.
Yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Once again, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have everybody here again if you're tuning in. Once again here on this January 26th, here on this Football Friday as well. We have a lot to talk about on this show for today, but before I get into that, once again, I want to remind you guys to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link, that is streamelements.com/GSMCSportsNetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show. It makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/GSMCSportsNetwork./tip. And as always, is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So with that, let's get right into what we are going to talk about for today. I don't know why my brother's deciding to go into the attic right now, if you heard all that noise in the background. But anyways, so we're going to talk about, of course, the championship games. But I want to get into first talking about some more coaching positions have been filled. And, Bill Belichick, one of the... who I thought would have a job, right now is still looking for a new home in 2024. And it's possible, will he be coaching in 2024? Because there's only two spots opened at the moment. So we'll talk about that. Then in the second part of the show, I'll talk about what a win would mean for each quarterback for Sunday. So we'll talk about that, what that can mean for their legacies. So I'll get into that. And then, of course, we'll preview the NFC Championship game and the AFC Championship game. Now, the NFC Championship game is being played after obviously they flip-flop every year. But to be honest, I think most people would agree that the AFC Championship game, I think most people are more excited for as opposed to the NFC Championship game. I don't know, just because of the quarterback matchup. I don't know. That's in my opinion, but I think both games will be good. Both games will be entertaining. So that's the rundown for the show for today. So let's get into the first topic, which is talking about more coaching carousel news. So the Falcons and the Panthers, they hired their new head coaches. Raheem Morris to the Falcons. He was named the Falcons head coach. They hired him, and then Dave Canales for the Panthers. Dave Canales was the offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And he did a great job with Baker Mayfield this year. Although it was funny, I saw a comment that said they hired the guy, they hired him after the Bucs scored 9 points against the Panthers, which I thought was funny. But, did well with Baker Mayfield this year. 14 years of experience working under Pete Carroll between USC and the Seahawks. So USC in 2009. And then, of course, with the Seahawks from 2010 to 2022. Obviously, the Panthers, they're trying to, rebound from this horrible season with their offense was just horrible. Bryce Young did not have a good rookie season, and obviously that pick has been heavily criticized by a lot of people. And Dave Tepper came out and said, that's who he wanted, and they don't regret the pick. But, other people kind of wanted C.J. Stroud, and you see how C.J. Stroud did. But again, also has got to deal with you got to be in the right system too, and maybe that's it. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how this pans out. Maybe he unlocks something with Bryce Young, but I don't know. I wouldn't say it's a crazy hire, but again, he did good with Baker Mayfield this year, so maybe he can unlock something, like I said, with Bryce Young. And then, of course, the Falcons went with Raheem Morris. And the Falcons actually, they interviewed 14 different candidates. And he beat out Bill Belichick for the job. Bill Belichick had 2 interviews with the Falcons, and they elected to go with Raheem Morris. He spent 6 years on the Falcons staff from 2015 to 2020. He was an interim head coach. He was a DC and even a wide receivers coach. He was good with the Rams as the DC last 3 seasons under Sean McVay. But I know when I was watching the Michael Kay show, they were talking about his record, and it wasn't really that good as an interim head coach. But so the Falcons, they hire him. Again, a defensive guy, which I thought was interesting. I don't know. Listen, it worked out with DeMeco Ryans, who's a defensive guy. But I feel like in this age of the NFL, you want to have an offensive guy. And the other thing, too, is the Falcons, they don't have a quarterback right now. That's something that they need, because it's not going to be Desmond Ridder. When Taylor Heineke is a backup quarterback, he can win you some games. But, again, he's a backup quarterback. So that was an interesting hire. But the big thing, and actually another thing, too, offensive coordinator-wise, the Bengals, they promoted Dan Pitcher as the offensive coordinator. Actually, I think I might have said this already. But, yeah, he's the offensive coordinator. I might have said this yesterday, but, he'll be the new OC now with Callahan going to the Titans. So, but the bigger thing here is the fact that Bill Belichick is still, jobless. Because, I don't know, for me, I know a lot of people talk about, the game might have passed him by. He didn't win anything with Tom Brady. But, again, it's Bill Belichick. I mean, now, the one thing they were talking about on the Michael Kay show yesterday when I was watching, and this could be true, is maybe, Arthur Blank didn't want to give Bill Belichick the keys to everything, being the general manager. Because, again, Bill Belichick takes over as, both in the front office and as the head coach. Some people are going to lose their jobs. So maybe they didn't want to sign up for that, and that's why they elected to go with Raheem Morris. But again, I think one of the biggest things, as we're moving into this new era of football, is you got to be able to adapt. And Bill Belichick is one of those people that needs to adapt, because since Tom Brady left, they made the playoffs the first season he left. Or actually, no, the second season, 2021. But then they got destroyed by the Bills. And then after that, each season has gotten progressively worse. And obviously this year was a disaster for the Patriots. So Belichick needs to adapt. Maybe he needs to take a step back, let somebody else, build the roster, and you be the head coach. Because I think Belichick could still coach. He could still coach a good defense. We know that. But it's just, drafting, skill positions players on the offense hasn't been, a strength. So, now there's only 2 openings. I keep forgetting about the Seahawks. They still need a new head coach. And then you also got the Commanders as well. But, I think for me personally, Seattle's probably the better situation because, they have, good players on defense. And, you look at their offense. That's another team that's missing a quarterback. Again, Geno Smith, he performed well his first season as the starter for the Seahawks, but then, it kind of took a step back in 2023. Again, the Seahawks are still competitive. They just missed the playoffs, but, they need to upgrade a quarterback. And, you look at what they have on offense. They have some young players on the offensive line that are good. You, of course, have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and Jackson Smith and Jigba, who's coming off of a good rookie season. Kenneth Walker as well, coming out of the backfield. The Seahawks have a solid roster. And maybe that's where he could possibly go. But again, they got to also, you know, set up an interview, and maybe the Seahawks don't want him. But it would be interesting if they kind of they told Pete Carroll to step down and they bring in Belichick. So I don't think it's going to happen. But again, that's a roster that is solid, and that's where Belichick could go. Whereas with the Commanders, they're not as loaded as the Seahawks. We'll just put it like that. And they're, again, another team that needs a quarterback. That's why, for me, I thought maybe the Chargers would have been a good spot for him, just because you have Herbert, and the defense is really the weakness of the team, and he could coach a good defense. So I felt like that made sense, but they went with Harbaugh, which not a bad choice, of course. So now the question is, will Belichick coach in 2024? And right now, I don't know, because those are your two options right now. Now, the other thing, too, is, again, they're talking about it in the media. That is also a rumor, again, just speculation, that, and I think I brought this up already, but, if Andy Reid retires, Belichick could just step in and be the coach and coach the Chiefs. But I don't know. I don't see it. It's interesting. I'm really surprised. I mean, maybe somehow a coaching job opens up that we don't know about, and it kind of just happens, and Belichick goes there. But I don't know. Those are your two options: the Seahawks and the Commanders. But it doesn't seem like anything's happening. So, but it's just crazy that there's a possibility that Belichick just flat out doesn't get a job for this year. And I think I did see a headline where, like, if he sits out for this year and doesn't coach, that it's going to be even harder for him to try to get a job next year. But I don't know. I mean, I find it hard to believe. Is it really? Somebody's got to have interest in him, right? But again, there's not that many openings. So I don't know. It really is an interesting situation that's developing here. Because I thought, he's going to find a job, no problem. Someone's going to pick him up. But no, not the Panthers. No, Falcons. They interviewed him twice, and they went with Raheem Morris. So, we'll have to see. We'll keep an eye on this, in the coming weeks. But this is very interesting with what's going on here, because I don't know. But again, it could be, he wants more power in an organization. He doesn't want to just be the head coach. I don't know. But again, people are saying the game passed him by because, again, these last couple of years, the Patriots really took a massive step back. So, but it's going to be weird if Belichick just doesn't get a job and he's not coaching next year. I mean, could he get a defensive coordinator job? Yeah, absolutely. But he's not going to want to do that. He wants to be a head coach, and he should, because he's the greatest coach of all time in many people's eyes. Including myself. I mean, again, I've been alive since 2000. Belichick is, to me, the greatest head coach of all time. I wasn't alive for, Parcells really, or, Tom Landry, all these other coaches, Vince Lombardi, obviously. Yeah, like, Belichick is the greatest coach of my lifetime. So, he's the greatest coach of all time, in my eyes. But I mean, he's the greatest head coach of all time to a lot of people as well, even with a lot of people being alive for, all the coaches I just mentioned, even though Vince Lombardi is going way back. But it's again going to be interesting to see what happens here. So let me know what you guys think. With that, we are going to take our first break of the show, and then when we come back, I'm going to discuss the importance of a win for each quarterback on Sunday. If they get a win, what does that mean for them going forward? So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh,
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we're going to talk about each quarterback and what a win for them would mean on Sunday. So, obviously, a couple of these guys are playing in their first championship games. Jared Goff and Patrick Mahomes, have played in championship games before. Jared Goff now with a new team. Patrick Mahomes, obviously, his sixth consecutive AFC Championship game appearance. First time being on the road. But yeah, I mean, on Sunday, this is, it's bigger for Mahomes. He's got 2 rings already. This is, again, his 6th consecutive, championship game appearance. So, for the other quarterbacks, it's bigger. So I'll actually start with the NFC quarterbacks. So, Jared Goff, obviously, back in the 2018-2019 season, he made it to the championship game with the Rams. They beat the Saints. That was, that game was insane. And, obviously at the end, they had the no call on that pass interference. Although, the Saints got the ball in overtime and Breeze threw a pick. Rams got the ball back. Zerline kicked the game-winning field goal, and they went to the Super Bowl. And then, obviously, they played in one of the worst Super Bowls I've ever watched just because of how boring it was. But anyways, so yeah, it's been a while since Jared Goff has gotten back to this point. And now he's there with the new team. And this would be huge for him because, again, like, you beat the Rams, earlier in the playoffs, the team that traded you. And obviously, Matthew Stafford won a Super Bowl for the Rams. So for Jared Goff, like, this would be huge for him to get a win here on the road against the number 1 seed in the 49ers, a team that he's played a lot over the course of his career being with the Rams. And, the 49ers have given him some problems. But, a win here and you get to the Super Bowl and you're doing it for the Detroit Lions and they have never been to a Super Bowl. They've never won a Super Bowl. To get to this point, to that point, and even, like, get a Super Bowl win for this city would be unbelievable. And it would help him out too. But, I think, the fact that the Lions, hosted back-to-back playoff games, they won a playoff game for the first time in 30-plus years. What Jared Goff has been able to do for that city and the kind of culture that the Lions are building over there with Dan Campbell, of course, as the head coach, and I've talked about that so many times, it's unbelievable. And, him getting the Lions to the Super Bowl, that would really help his legacy. Losing here, of course, against the number 1 seed in the 49ers, yeah, it would stink. But the fact that, again, the Lions have made it this far and they continue to improve year by year. These past 2 years now, they are really, showing that they are a top team in the NFC. Although, yeah, they've been inconsistent at times. But you know what? In the playoffs, Jared Goff's been solid in these playoffs. And I'm going to be honest, I think that continues on Sunday. I think he's going to have a good game. And I don't know why I thought, like, the weather wasn't going to be good. I guess maybe it was, like, early in the week they were saying that. But it's supposed to be it's supposed to clear up. So that's good for both quarterbacks in this game. So then the other quarterback that he will be going up against is Brock Purdy. And this would be a great story, him getting to the Super Bowl, making it to back-to-back NFC Championship games. Obviously, last year didn't go as planned because he got hurt on the first drive against the Eagles, and they had to throw him back out there to just kind of throw dump-offs because he just couldn't throw. But the Brock Purdy story is another great story too, just because, again, was the last pick in the draft. Wasn't really expected to do anything last year because you had Garoppolo and Trey Lance, and then of course Trey Lance gets hurt, so then Garoppolo has to step in. Then Garoppolo gets hurt, and then now it's up to Purdy, and and Purdy played well, got them to the playoffs. And, of course, again, the season didn't end the way they wanted it to, but, they come back next year. Purdy plays like an MVP candidate. They did have a little bit of a rough stretch, but, again, they were able to figure it out, get guys healthy, and now they are back in the championship game once again, and they will be hosting it this time against the Detroit Lions. And, Purdy's, been getting some criticism because of the Avengers cast that he has, which, I say that in quotes, but yeah, it is an Avengers cast because you got Christian McCaffrey, who's one of the best, if not the best running back in the game. You got Deebo Samuel, who's, top 10 receiver. And then of course you have George Kittle, top 3 tight end when he's healthy. And then you have Brandon Ayuk as well. And of course Trent Williams at left tackle. He's got an incredible supporting cast. But like I've said, I don't think he's, top tier level quarterback, but I think that, he's done the best out of the quarterbacks that Kyle Shanahan has had to work with since he's become the head coach of the 49ers. Now again, they got Christian McCaffrey last year, and Garoppolo did well with him in the limited time that he played with him. But I don't know. I just feel like with Purdy, they look like a different offense. And Purdy, he makes good throws. You still got to make the throws, and he does make them. Now, there's some bad throws in there as well. But I think, winning this game here, I think if Purdy goes out and plays really well, I mean, even if Deebo Samuel doesn't play in this game and Purdy goes out there and plays really well, I mean, that's going to help him because you could say to the Brock Purdy doubters, like, hey, look, he did well without Deebo Samuel. But then they'll probably say, well, he still had McCaffrey, Kittle, Ayuk. But still, the offense was different without Deebo Samuel. They went on that losing streak. So I think just also it'd be a great story, him getting to the Super Bowl, just because, again, was the last pick in the draft. I think a win on Sunday would be huge. And also, again, coming off of a performance where, the Niners offense wasn't great. Green Bay looked like the better team. Green Bay outplayed him, for most of that game. Pretty much the whole game. For Purdy to come out and play really well here on Sunday, that would be big. And, to get the Niners back to the Super Bowl, to be a part of that would be huge. Because, the Niners back in 2019, I mean, you remember George Kittle saying, I will be back here, and it's been a couple of years since then. 2020 was kind of a rough year for them because they got ravaged by injuries. But they've made it to the NFC Championship game now, 3 consecutive seasons. 2021 obviously was with Garoppolo. And then last year, of course, again, they made it with Purdy, but he got hurt. But they had McCaffrey for it. They didn't have McCaffrey in 2021. So, we'll see. But this would be huge for the Niners and, particularly for Purdy, if they're able to, get this win on Sunday. So then we go to the AFC side. Now, obviously, we'll talk about Patrick Mahomes first. Like I said, I mean, even though we did that already. Again, he's going into his 6th consecutive AFC Championship game, first time on the road, playing against the number 1 seed in the Ravens. Again, Patrick Mahomes' legacy has kind of already been, cemented, because, again, if he retired right now on the spot, like he would be a first ballot Hall of Famer with what he's been able to do his first 6 seasons, MVPs, Super Bowl rings, so a loss here doesn't, hurt his legacy, but it would really enhance it. And again, like I talked about this week, a Super Bowl win here for the Chiefs would solidify them as a dynasty. It would. So that's really what this means for Patrick Mahomes and for the Chiefs. But this is a bigger game for Lamar Jackson. Because, I'm one of those people that criticized him, and I talked about this, coming back from big deficits when they're trailing and, not being able to beat the Chiefs. Well, he did that. It's been a little bit because they're going to be meeting for the first time in a couple of years now. But it's been a little bit. But he did do that. And I think, a win here to beat the Chiefs in a big spot in the AFC Championship game, that goes a long way. Because, again, not a lot of people have done that. There's only been two quarterbacks. Sorry, my hand was cut off. But, yeah, so there's only been two quarterbacks that have been able to do that. And that is Joe Burrow and Tom Brady. Lamar Jackson is able to defeat Patrick Mahomes. He's a part of that elite class. And if he gets to a Super Bowl and he wins one, I mean, what are the Lamar haters going to say now? Because you want to talk about, haters and doubters. They've been there for Lamar Jackson. Because, with Lamar Jackson, struggling as a passer, again, like I said, not a quarterback that can overcome being down in the game, and not being able to beat the Chiefs. If you could do that here in this spot, again, that'll go a long way. And especially because he said when he got drafted, because I watched that clip recently, he said it when Deion Sanders was interviewing him, that he guarantees that he will win a Super Bowl for the Ravens. And if he goes and does that, he shouldn't have any doubters. And he could very well win the MVP this year too. So I would say, like, when it comes to these four quarterbacks, I mean, this is big for everybody not named Patrick Mahomes. I mean, again, this only just enhances Patrick Mahomes' legacy. And again, they win the Super Bowl, that solidifies them as a dynasty. For these other guys, they got something to each of them do have something to prove. But more so the other three. Lamar Jackson getting a win over the defending champs, over the team that's just kind of controlled the AFC the last 6 years since Mahomes became the starter. If Lamar Jackson's able to do that, beat Patrick Mahomes and go on to play in the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl, that's huge for his legacy. And then you got the two quarterbacks. Jared Goff, he gets traded. Detroit was a bad team his first season, but now, they are one game away from a Super Bowl. You got Brock Purdy, who was the last pick in the draft. He's trying to prove something. It's, those guys have more to prove than Patrick Mahomes, but, each of them do have something to prove in their own right. So we'll see what happens, but let me know what you guys think, about what you think a win would mean for each of these quarterbacks. So yeah, that's pretty much it when talking about this. So now we're actually going to get into the games when we come back from our second break of the show. So we'll get into the NFC Championship game when we come back. But before we go to break, just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/GSMCSportsNetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/GSMCSportsNetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So, when we come back from our second break of the show, we will then preview the NFC Championship game between the Detroit Lions and the San Francisco 49ers. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we are now going to preview the NFC Championship game between the Detroit Lions and the San Francisco 49ers. So, obviously I talked about this the last time these two teams met was back in week 1 of the 2021 season. Jared Goff's first start as the Lions quarterback. That game, final score of that game was 41-33. The 49ers were up by as much as 38-10. And then the Lions made things interesting. They actually had a chance to tie the game because, the 49ers, they picked up a first down. Deebo Samuel fumbled. The Lions got the ball back, but they weren't able to, cash in on it, and they ended up losing by a score. But then the Lions went on to have, a bad season. Now these two teams, very different since that last encounter. Obviously, Brock Purdy's now the quarterback for the 49ers. The Lions are a much better team than they were back then. Coming into this game, the Lions are a 7-point underdog, so that hasn't moved throughout the week. Line is still +7 for the Lions. We still don't know what the status for Deebo Samuel is for this game. Again, he was actually limited on Thursday. I think he's going to end up playing. The weather is supposed to be nice for this game. It's 77 degrees. I don't know why I thought it was going to be that there was a possibility it was going to be bad weather, but again, that was like earlier in the week. Things change. Looking at the league rankings of these two teams, both teams are top 10 in passing yards per game. The Lions are 4th. The Niners are 6th. Both teams are top 10 in rushing. The Niners are 3rd. The Lions are 5th. And both teams are top 5 in points per game. The Niners are 3rd and the Lions are 5th. And then you look at the defensive side of the ball. The Lions, again, the pass defense has been a problem. They're 29th, giving up 268.4 passing yards per game. The Niners are 14th, so they're middle of the pack, 232.3. And that's where I think the Lions can be successful. If they could give Jared Goff time in this game, I feel like the Lions can exploit the 49ers secondary because, listen, they got weapons too. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Josh Reynolds has been making plays for them as well. So that's a matchup I'm curious to see how that goes. But again, the Lions offensive line has to hold up against this 49ers pass rush. And then, of course, you have both teams are actually top 3 against the run. The Lions are giving up an average of 88.8 rushing yards per game, which is 2nd in the NFL. And the 49ers are 3rd, giving up an average of 89.7 rushing yards per game. Points allowed, Niners defense is 3rd, and the Lions defense is 23rd. So, listen, Brock Purdy struggled last week in the game against the Packers. This could be a bounce back game for him. This game has the potential to be high scoring. But this Lions pass rush, if this Lions pass rush can get home and get both quarterbacks, it's very similar. If both pass rushes can get the opposing quarterback off their spot, you could force turnovers, force them into mistakes, but if you give these guys time to throw, they can pick you apart. So Jared Goff works really well off of play action. Deebo Samuel is questionable for this game. So let's look at the other injuries for this going into this game as well. So on the Lions side, Alex Anzalone, he had rib injury. He was limited on Thursday. He's questionable. Sam Laporta, who has played, he's still dealing with the knee injury, of course. He was limited. Frank Ragnow, he did not practice on Thursday. Their center, because I think he got hurt in the Bucs game. He got hurt in the Bucs game. So that could be a big loss there if he doesn't play in this game. Khalif Raymond did not practice on Thursday, so it maybe looks like an uphill battle for him to play in this game. Josh Reynolds was limited with the rib injury. Brock Wright was placed on injured reserve. That's why they brought in Zach Ertz to back up Laporta. Then on the 49ers side of things, Deebo Samuel is the big injury. Limited on Thursday, questionable for the NFC Championship game. But for me, I think he's going to play. Now, in terms of how I see this game playing out, I mean, listen, I had the 49ers winning this game. I have them winning the Super Bowl. Again, more so with my heart as opposed to my head. I would love to see the Lions win this game, and I think they definitely can, because, how the 49ers, how Brock Purdy performed on offense last week, makes me pause a little bit, because, that could happen again this week. Again, you could look at the weather. You could talk about maybe the layoff. Because again, the last time they played was week 17. So it was a while. So maybe that could be why. Deebo Samuel being hurt. We saw what happened earlier in the season when he doesn't play. They struggle. Now they did win against the Packers, but the Packers did play. Packers played really well. They outplayed them for pretty much the whole game. So we'll see what happens here, but I think the 49ers should win this game, but I think it's going to be a close game. We've seen the 49ers back end struggle this year. When they've given opposing quarterbacks time to throw, they've struggled on the back end. Again, I go back to Joe Burrow and Kirk Cousins, what they were able to do against them earlier in the season. And listen, the Lions have a lot of weapons on this team. And they have a good running game. And that was the other thing, too. I was surprised at how well the Packers ran the football against the Niners defense. Aaron Jones had a good game. Now you got Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery coming in. Jahmyr Gibbs has been great in the second half of the season. David Montgomery's been solid for them all year. That could definitely wear this 49ers defense down. We saw the Eagles last year in the championship game, with their running game. The Lions, they got a good running game themselves, and they could definitely wear down the Niners in this game. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. And again, the pass rush with Aiden Hutchinson, they got to get home. They got to get Brock Purdy off his spot. And if they're able to do that, they really got a puncher's chance in this game. I really do believe that. Brock Purdy's got to go out and perform. You got rely on your weapons. You got Christian McCaffrey, you got George Kittle, you got Brandon Ayuk. Even if you don't have Deebo Samuel, you got all those guys to throw to. Juwan Jennings makes plays for them. And with the Lions' pass defense not being that good, I think the Niners, they could exploit that, which is why this is going to be a high-scoring game. I think, for me, if the Lions jump out to a lead in this game, that might be I don't want to say like that's insurmountable, because if they jump out to an insurmountable lead, I don't think the Niners are coming back. But if they go up by maybe like 2 scores, I don't know if the Niners are going to be able to come back. I don't know, because they're great when they're ahead, but if they're trailing, are they going to be able to come back? Because then that's just going to all the momentum is going to be the Lions. So the Lions pretty much got to do something similar to some of the other teams in the playoffs, where you got to get the ball, go right on the road, get the ball, go right down the field, and score. That's what you got to do. Set the tone for this game. And if you do that, then you put the pressure on the 49ers. And, I could see that, kind of, affecting the Niners a little bit. But I think also for the Lions, too, if they fall behind, by a couple of scores, would they be able to come back? I don't know, because, then you got to deal with the pass rush, and, the 49ers defense could just pin their ears back and, rush the passer, and then the 49ers can just rely on Christian McCaffrey to kind of just, drain the clock, and, they could just run the football. But I don't know. I think for me this game is going to be competitive throughout. But I think the 49ers they'll sneak by, and they will win this game. I think that the final score, I'm going to say the final score is 31-27. I think that'll be the final score of this game. I'm going to go with that. I think the Lions will cover the number. I just think they have too good of an offense, and I think that the back end of the 49ers defense is a weakness there, like I've talked about a lot. And I feel like they'll be able to move the ball. But again, with their center possibly being out and Frank Ragnow, that could be an issue. Because, you got to deal with Bosa and Chase Young and Armstead. Yeah, that's going to be an issue. Then, of course, also, Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw as well. They're linebackers, some of the best linebackers in the league. Their front seven is one of the best in the NFL, if not the best. But again, it's just their back end. That's a problem. So, but if the Lions could give Jared Goff time, because Jared Goff and Brock Purdy, they're not, not like, the other game we're going to talk about. I mean, obviously Lamar Jackson is the most elusive quarterback in the league, but him and Patrick Mahomes are mobile. They're mobile. These guys, I mean, Jared Goff and Brock Purdy, they can move around. They're mobile a little bit, but they're not as mobile as Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. So that could be if the pass rush gets home, on either side, it's going to be a problem for the opposing QB. But again, the center being out possibly for Ragnow being out possibly for the Lions could be a huge loss. Well, let's see. Because I was looking at CBS. Let's see if maybe there's any other update. Because I forgot he did get injured. Let's see. Nope, that's not it. Is the engine that makes the Lions offense roar. That's one of the headlines. But that's not good. But yeah, he's among 4 Lions players not practicing. So we'll see. Oh, wait. Now I see this is a headline here. MLive.com says Frank Ragnow expects to play despite 4 injuries. Sam Laporta among 4 listed as out. This is from a day ago. All right, so I don't know how legit this is, but we'll keep an eye on it. But again, if he's out, that's a problem for that offensive line. Because again, you're going up against a really good pass rush. So we'll keep an eye on that. But let me know what you guys think about this game. I'm really excited. I mean, both games I'm excited for. This, of course, is the later game. This will be at, I think, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Yeah, on Fox. No streaming service. Don't worry about that. We're good for now. 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time in Santa Clara on Fox. And we'll see. It's a trip to the Super Bowl, and Jared Goff, if he wins, he'll be playing in his second Super Bowl. If Brock Purdy wins, he'll be playing in his first. So obviously, I talked about that in the in the last segment. But it should be a good game. I think it should be a good game. I hope it's a good game. But both teams have their weaknesses, particularly the pass defenses. I mean, the Lions are worse than the 49ers pass defense, but still, that's a weakness of these teams. So, like I said, both quarterbacks got time to throw. This could be a shootout. So we'll see. I think the Lions are going to find success running the football, because if the Packers were able to do it with Aaron Jones, I think with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, the Lions are going to be able to do the same thing as well. And I think they're going to be motivated. So we'll see how it plays out. We will see how it plays out. So we're going to take our final break of the show. And then when we come back, we will then discuss now the AFC Championship game between Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, which will be played first. But I think, most people, I think more people are excited about that. And, also want to see the Chiefs go down, for this game. So, that's where, again, Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. That's the reason why. That's why. Not to say the NFC Championship game is not going to be good, but this is, I think, the sexier matchup of the two, and I think most people would agree with that. So that's what we'll talk about when we come back from our final break of the show. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we are now going to preview the AFC Championship game between the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs. This will be played in Baltimore. Again, this will be Patrick Mahomes' first AFC Championship game on the road. That was second road playoff game that he'll be playing in. Again, it's been quite some time since Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes have played against each other, and that's what the next big rivalry was supposed to be. And then, Lamar Jackson's gotten hurt. Chiefs and Ravens haven't really played each other, so then it was like, Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes, Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. It's just so people kind of forgot about this, well, particularly in the media. At least that's how it comes off as. But so they'll be matching up for the fifth time now. Mahomes is currently 3-1 against Lamar Jackson. The Ravens won the most recent matchup, which I think the Chiefs could have very easily won. I think they kind of gave that game away. But, this is a big spot for Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. They're the 1 seed right now, like on paper, and, throughout the season, they have proved to be the better team. But the Chiefs, these last 2 playoff games are kind of reminding everybody, like, hey, we're still the Chiefs. Like, we could still win a Super Bowl, even in our not so best years. Because this was kind of a weird season for them. Because they haven't really been consistent on offense. Receivers dropping passes. I mean, the receivers led the NFL in drops. And Patrick Mahomes' touchdown to interception ratio isn't great. 27 touchdowns to 14 interceptions. That's high for him. But they have a solid running game with Isaiah Pacheco. They kind of have a new identity there. Travis Kelce coming off a solid playoff game against the Bills. He's been dealing with injuries all year. And you hope next year he has a healthier season. With the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, 24 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Has 821 rushing yards. Could be the MVP this year. And, the Ravens surrounded him with a nice supporting cast, drafting Zay Flowers, who's been nice in his rookie season. Odell Beckham Jr. has made plays for them. Isaiah Likely has done a nice job filling in for Mark Andrews since he got hurt. And he actually could be playing in this game, which would be huge for the Ravens. And, of course, running the football. With Gus Edwards and Justice Hill right now, Dalvin Cook, obviously, they added to the roster, and he ran it a little bit last week against the Texans. But the other thing, too, is, the Ravens in general, they've been healthy for the most part. They, of course, with the running back situation, J.K. Dobbins getting hurt. But other than that, Ravens have been relatively healthy. Lamar Jackson's been healthy. Most of the guys on defense have been healthy, and that's what's held this team back the last couple of seasons from, getting to the playoffs and getting further in the playoffs. Because they did make the playoffs last year, but Tyler Huntley had to start, and they could have won that game. So going into this game, you look at the Ravens injury report. So Marlon Humphrey, he's dealing with a calf injury. That's a big injury there, but he was limited on Thursday, so he's still questionable for this game. So we got to keep an eye on that. On the Chiefs side, Edwards, he got hurt in the game against the Bills. He was limited. Let's see. So Sky Moore could play in this game, possibly. We also got Pacheco. He actually didn't practice. It says he didn't practice on Thursday with a toe injury, but I anticipate he's going to play. Kadarius Toney, we'll see if he ends up playing in this game. Joe Tooney, one of their guards. He didn't practice. Pectoral injury, doubtful for the AFC Championship game. That's a big loss there for the Chiefs on that offensive line. Because obviously the Chiefs, they prioritized fixing up that offensive line after Mahomes was running for his life in the Super Bowl against the Bucs in 2020. And listen, this Ravens defense is really good. Looking at the league rankings for these two teams, so the Chiefs are 7th in passing yards per game. The Ravens are 21st. The Chiefs are 19th in rushing yards per game. The Ravens are number 1. So, they're going to try to run the football and wear this Kansas City defense down. And then points per game, Ravens are 4th. Chiefs are 15th. Then on the defensive side of the ball, the Chiefs are number 4 against the pass, giving up an average of 197.2 passing yards per game. Ravens are 8th, giving up an average of 218.6 passing yards per game. Both teams are middle of the pack at stopping the run. The Ravens are 14th, the Chiefs are 17th. And then points allowed, both defenses are top 3. The Ravens are number 1, and the Chiefs' defense is number 2. The Chiefs' defense didn't get off to a great start against the Bills, but they got important stops in that game last week, and they were ultimately able to win the game, of course, off of Bills' miscues. Obviously, missing the the field goal was huge. I mean, I thought when they went for the fake punt and didn't get it, I thought, all right, the game is definitely over right there. But then, of course, McCole Hardman had to fumble the ball out of the back of the end zone, and the Bills got it back, which you thought maybe the Bills lucked out, but they did not. Now, what to expect from this game? This is a tough defense that the Chiefs will be going up against, but they got Patrick Mahomes, so he's kind of like the equalizer in that. And Rashee Rice, has kind of become that number 1 wide receiver for them. He's been making plays for them in the second half of the season. The Mahomes seems to trust him. Kelsey had a good game, like I said, against the Bills, so he's going to be a factor. They're going to try to run the football with Isaiah Pacheco and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, more specifically Pacheco being the lead back. So I don't think the Ravens defense is going to shut down the Chiefs. I think this is going to be another game that's going to be very competitive. For me personally, though, I'm kind of going to revert back to what I said, before Lamar Jackson beat the Chiefs. If the Ravens fall behind, I don't know if they're going to, by multiple scores, I don't know if they're going to be able to come back. They were able to do it the last time they played the Chiefs, but that also came off of Chiefs miscues. Mahomes threw a pick in the game that kind of changed momentum in that. But again, that was 2 years ago. I think this game is going to be competitive throughout. I'm curious to see how Lamar Jackson will play against the Chiefs' defense, because again, the Chiefs' defense has been the strength of the team this year. And the Ravens, their offense got off to a little bit of a slow start. It was 10-10 at the half against the Texans, and the Texans, they scored a touchdown off of a punt return. Now you're going up against Patrick Mahomes, and this game, if you're going to want to win this game, you're going to have to. It's going to be a shootout. The Chiefs actually. What's the line now? I think it went up to 3.5 now, at least looking at CBS. So. Yeah, the Chiefs right now are 3.5-point underdogs. I mean, I would take Patrick Mahomes with the points. I think this game is going to be really close. Now, we talk about the NFC Championship game being clear weather. There is rain in the forecast for this game. Now, I don't think it's really going to matter for these quarterbacks because obviously Lamar Jackson can also run the football as well. Patrick Mahomes, I mean, I'm not worried about him in bad weather. I'm just not. But I think this game is going to be very competitive. Again, really looking forward to this game as well. It's tough. Because, again, I said I own the right to change my pick, but I'm not going to do it. I have the Ravens going to the Super Bowl, and I'm going to stand by that. It's going to be a really tough game. I mean, I could see it going either way because the Chiefs, they turned on that gear, for the postseason, so they look really dangerous right now. I am a little worried for the Ravens just because they did get off to a slow start against the Texans, but then they just dominated in the second half. If they can establish the run and they can play their kind of game on offense, then you favor the Ravens in this game. But if they're getting into a shootout, that's where I get worried a little bit. But I like the Ravens to win a close ball game. I think it's going to be a field goal game. So I honestly would take the Chiefs with the points, but I think the Ravens are going to win. It might come down to a Justin Tucker game-winning field goal. But the Ravens have been the better team all year. And listen, for a lot of people, this is the last line of defense, from a Taylor Swift Super Bowl. So, a lot of people are really, hoping that Lamar Jackson gets it done. Because, I mean, the amount of edits that I have seen on social media, just calling out to Lamar Jackson to win this game on Sunday is unbelievable. I mean, all the Star Wars memes and Avengers memes and things like that. It's really funny. And that's the good side of the internet is, that kind of stuff. But again, I mean, I understand the negativity towards the Chiefs. And again, I've seen posts where it's like, when Mahomes first, started, everyone's like, oh, man, I hope he, has a good career and things like that. Hope they beat the Patriots. Because, again, they played the Patriots in the AFC Championship game. That was his first AFC Championship game, and they lost. And that was like, all right, we're sick and tired of the Patriots. Well, now it's like we're sick and tired of the Chiefs. But again, like, you got to appreciate it. You got to step back and appreciate, some of these great players. Because Patrick Mahomes is an all-time great. So we got to appreciate it while it lasts. Because, before we know it, he's not going to be here anymore. He's going to be retiring. I mean, we got a while before then. But I'm just saying, like, time goes really fast. So now, obviously, again, you want to see other people, get a chance to, win a championship. And Lamar Jackson, if he does that, he has a chance to do so. But he's got to slay the dragon. You got to beat this team. That's the Chiefs are going to be one of the final teams remaining pretty much every season with Patrick Mahomes. So yeah, you're gonna have to slay the dragon here. And can the Ravens do that? We'll have to see. I mean, I'm picking them just because I have them going to the Super Bowl. I think they are the best team left overall in the playoffs. But again, well, the Super Bowl thing is different. Well, let's see if the Super Bowl teams I have get there, Ravens and the 49ers. But I think the Ravens are the best team that's left. But Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback that is left. So we'll see. We will see, but it's gonna be a fun weekend. Really looking forward to these games. I'm gonna be locked in, and on Monday we will have our Super Bowl matchup. So, get ready. You're gonna be on the edge of you're definitely gonna be on the edge of your seat watching these games. I mean, there's gonna be. I think at least one of them should come down to maybe a game-winning field goal, possibly, or go into overtime. But we'll see. Again, at the end of the day, just hoping for good games. But again, if Lamar Jackson, whatever happens in the AFC Championship game, the internet's gonna explode because, if Lamar Jackson wins, everyone's gonna be really happy that they beat the Chiefs, or a lot of people are gonna be happy. And then if the Chiefs win, a lot of people are not going to be happy. But for me, I'm hoping for a good game. And whatever Super Bowl matchup that we end up with, I'm fine with it. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the show for today. I thank you guys for tuning in for both shows if you did. Listening to me talk for 2 hours about two separate things. I appreciate it. We'll be back again on Monday. We'll recap the championship games. That'll, of course, be at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And, that's pretty much it. So, again, enjoy the games. Obviously, this game here, Ravens and the Chiefs will get us started. And then you got the Lions and the 49ers after that. So, until then, I'm Kenneth Grunfelder signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the games. And I will see you guys on Monday. Take care.